It is getting so toxic, I feel like, in our league, with a lot of the fans going back and forth.
This viral podcast clip just exposed everything wrong with the WNBA's old guard, and Caitlin Clark is the reason why.
Currently, there's a clip going viral right now regarding Napheesa Collier in regards to the fans.
Before Caitlin Clark laced up her sneakers for a single professional minute, the buzz was already deafening. Her name echoed across social media timelines.
I have never heard players bash fans.
Her jersey pre-ordered by the thousands, her highlights dominating SportsCenter. But what happened once she stepped onto a WNBA court?
The same fans packing arenas and blowing up the ratings.
That's when the game, and the league, truly changed. It wasn't subtle. Overnight, the Indiana Fever, a team that spent years buried in obscurity, were suddenly must-see TV.
It is getting so toxic, I feel like, in our league, with a lot of the fans going back and forth. Basketball and sports are supposed to be so unifying, and it is so toxic. Every game, it's like hatred.
This is a massive debate, and it cuts right into the bone of the WNBA's entire future.
Season ticket sales exploded. Road games became sellouts. And fans, real fans, not just die-hard basketball heads, but young girls.
Sorry, not to interrupt you. You know what is kind of surprising and disappointing, honestly? It is getting so toxic, I feel like, in our league, with a lot of the fans going back and forth. Basketball and sports are supposed to be so unifying, and it is so toxic. Every game, it's like hatred out there towards other players, and not just, Angel and Caitlin. They are the OGs where people will get so polarizing with, but it's with everyone, and people are just so nasty on there. And it's we're playing a game. We are playing a game, and you are saying hateful things about players. I don't know. That has been really surprising. I feel like we're trending in a really bad spot with that.
Curious dads, college alumni, even casual NBA fans. They all started packing arenas. The Caitlin effect wasn't theory.
We have seen a lot of embarrassing whining and crying boo-hoo about fans booing opposing teams' players.
It was quantifiable, immediate, and undeniable. Attendance across the league spiked. Road cities saw unprecedented ticket surges.
These WNBA fans are going to be the same fans that go to Unrivaled.
The Fever rocketed into the top tier of WNBA attendance, and they weren't doing it with wins. They were doing it with her. Because even when the scoreboard didn't favor Indiana, Clark's presence gave fans what they came for. Deep threes, no-look assists.
Napheesa Collier actually right. Are the fans, the same fans packing arenas and blowing up the ratings, the ones to blame for a toxic WNBA?
These ladies don't know how to handle more publicity, more fans.
Fearless drives, and that electric mix of competitiveness and charm that made her magnetic at Iowa. Now it was lighting up the pros. This wasn't just about basketball, it was cultural.
They just don't understand. You want your league to grow, this is what comes with it.
It's actually really, really ridiculous and sad.
It was commercial. Caitlin Clark became the bridge between where the WNBA had been and where it could go. She wasn't simply joining the league, she was forcing it to evolve. And for a while, that spotlight seemed like a celebration. But light also casts shadows.
Why don't you do that, Napheesa Collier?
Clark has firmly established herself as the biggest name in the WNBA.
And for some veterans who'd spent years grinding in the background, Caitlin's rapid rise wasn't just intimidating, it was threatening. Because in one rookie season, she redefined what it meant to be the face of the WNBA.
You have a brand new team, the Golden State Valkyries. Now that Napheesa Collier is in the WNBA, a brand new team. They lead the league, 9,000 stinking fans a night.
Not just points per game, not just all-star selections, but ticket sales, sponsorships, conversation, culture. And that spark? It was just the beginning of the firestorm. When Napheesa Collier sat down for a podcast with Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe,
Collier says this isn't just about the intense rivalry circling around phenoms like Caitlin Clark and Andrew Reese.
No one expected it to shake the WNBA's cultural foundation. But in just a few words, she exposed a deep fracture, not between players and fans, but between eras of the league itself. Her words were clear,
these WNBA fans are going to be the same fans that go to Unrivaled. It's in regards to the fans. And if this is scary, currently there's a clip going viral right now regarding the
Emotional and, depending on who you asked, either a much-needed warning or a tone-deaf misfire. It's getting so toxic. Basketball is supposed to be unifying. Every game just feels like hatred. To some, it was an honest confession from a player overwhelmed by the new wave of fan energy. But to millions of viewers, it felt like a veteran star throwing a punch at the very people lifting the league. The same fans buying jerseys, filling arenas, breaking TV ratings, the same fans she called toxic.
And here's the twist. The moment Collier labeled the fan base as problematic, she flipped the script on herself. Because in this new era, it's not just the media who watches, it's everyone. Her comments went viral, not because they were controversial in isolation, but because they ran counter to the momentum the league had finally built. Fans didn't hear vulnerability. They heard rejection. They weren't being thanked for caring. They were being told their passion was a problem. In any other era, Collier's concerns might have stayed in the locker room. But now, every quote is a headline. Every reaction is a trend. And when Collier expressed discomfort with the pressure, it echoed like a warning shot from the old guard. A generation of players who, for the first time, are no longer the focal point. Meanwhile, Clark said nothing. No response, no subtweet, no passive-aggressive interview. She didn't have to. Because every time she steps on the court and hears the cheers or the boos,
y'all league actually got eyes on it. You have to understand that. You have to people were not paying attention. Probably when people say this, you're like, oh, yes, they were. Yes, they were. Look at 2 years ago, the All-Star voting, and now look at this year's All-Star voting.
she doesn't flinch. She embraces it. And in that silence, a contrast emerged. Collier was talking about pressure. Clark was thriving in it. And suddenly, this wasn't just a podcast clip. It was a cultural shift playing out in real time, a league being pulled into the future by one player while another begged it to slow down. Booing, it's as old as the game itself. LeBron heard it in Cleveland. Kyrie hears it every time he touches the ball in Boston. In the NBA, MLB, NFL, boos are just part of the soundtrack. Fans invest, fans react, and passion plays both ways. It's not hate. It's engagement. It's respect. You don't boo someone who doesn't matter. But in the WNBA, that same passion is suddenly under scrutiny. When Caitlin Clark gets shoved, fouled hard, or even elbowed in the jaw, what does she hear? Toughen up. She's got to earn her stripes. It's part of the game. But when fans boo a player like De'Arica Hamby or Napheesa Collier, suddenly that's too far. Suddenly it's toxic. Suddenly it's a threat to the league. This isn't just hypocrisy, it's a double standard with real consequences. Because let's be honest, Caitlin Clark has absorbed more criticism in 6 months than most veterans have in 6 years. Every move dissected, every tweet debated, and yet, not a single complaint, not one podcast appearance crying foul, no requests for protection. She gets knocked down and shows up the next night to a sold-out crowd that boos and cheers, and she delivers. Meanwhile, Collier, who has never faced this level of attention in her career, is calling out the very thing that's keeping her league afloat, the noise. And it's not just fans noticing the contradiction. Former players like Courtney Williams and Tisha Hyman came forward and said it plainly. This is what you asked for. This is what growth feels like. You can't celebrate sold-out arenas and then police how fans behave once they show up. You can't demand coverage and then cry foul when the spotlight stings. You can't post about growing the game and then fold when the crowd boos your entrance. The truth is simple. In the pros, criticism isn't cruelty. It's confirmation you matter. And if you're asking for respect, you've got to earn it on both ends, by the way you play and the way you respond. Clark has already mastered both. Others are still trying to decide if they even want to play that game.
Before Caitlin Clark stepped onto a WNBA court, Napheesa Collier was supposed to be the league's future. Drafted high, Olympic pedigree, consistent stats, a leader on and off the floor. But here's the problem. She led in silence, in a league with no spotlight, no national narrative, and far too few eyeballs. That's no longer enough. The numbers tell the story. Collier's Minnesota Lynx, a playoff-caliber team, ranked 9th in WNBA attendance, barely scraping 9,000 fans a night in an arena that holds nearly 19,000, half empty, even during winning seasons. Her jersey doesn't sell out, her name rarely trends, and when she talks, the basketball world—
Y'all league actually got eyes on it. You have to understand that. You have to people were not paying attention. Probably when people say this, you're like, oh, yes, they were. Yes, they were. Look at 2 years ago, the All-Star voting, and now look at this year's All-Star vote.
Doesn't stop to listen. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark walks into the league, and within weeks, everything shifts. Fever games become events. Opposing arenas brace for sellouts. Viewership climbs. Sponsors flood in. Celebrities take courtside seats. Clark's not just trending, she is the trend. That doesn't make her better, but it does make her bigger. And that shift, that violent, undeniable redistribution of attention, is what some veterans simply can't process. This isn't just about Collier's podcast quote. It's about what it represents. The quiet resentment of a player who played the game the right way for years and still got overshadowed in a single season. And instead of adapting to this new world, embracing the momentum, feeding the growth, she's recoiling from it. She's labeling it toxic. She's pointing at fans and calling their passion the problem. But in truth, the only thing that's toxic is refusing to evolve. And Clark, she's not just evolving, she's setting the new standard. She connects with fans. She understands the business. She shows up to pressers with poise. She engages with the spotlight instead of shrinking from it. She lets her game speak, and when needed, she lets it roar. Collier may not realize it yet, but this is what the changing of the guard looks like. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't move politely. It shows up, takes the mic, and owns the room. And Caitlin Clark? She didn't just take the mic. She built the stage. Caitlin Clark didn't come to the WNBA to make noise. She didn't need to. The noise followed her. Stadiums shaking, jerseys selling out, entire cities turning out just to watch her warm up. And that's what's rewriting the very foundation of the league. While other players vent on podcasts worried about fan behavior or media scrutiny, Clark shows up, plays, and changes the entire landscape without ever asking for special treatment. She takes hits on the court, she gets booed in away arenas, she's constantly under the microscope, and still, she doesn't flinch. Because she understands something many veterans are just starting to realize. This is what growth looks like. It's messy, it's loud, it's uncomfortable, but it's also progress. In over a dozen cities this season, Clark's presence alone has turned dormant fan bases into frenzied crowds. Her road games are sellouts. Her jersey is impossible to keep in stock. And more importantly, she's brought new eyes. Casual fans, young kids, first-time viewers, all discovering the WNBA through her. Compare that to Napheesa Collier, a strong player, respected, decorated, but fading. Not because she's lost her skill, but because she's lost the conversation. When Collier labeled WNBA fans toxic, she wasn't just critiquing behavior. She was unknowingly waving a white flag, signaling that the new WNBA, the one built on energy, intensity, and daily headlines, might no longer have a place for her version of leadership. Clark never said a word back. She didn't need to, because every deep three, every clutch assist, every post-game handshake does more for the league than a dozen think pieces. And that's the quiet part no one wants to say out loud. Caitlin Clark didn't end Collier's career, she just redefined what a WNBA career needs to be. Now the question isn't whether Clark is the face of the league, it's whether anyone else is even close enough to be seen in the same frame. If you made it this far, you already know. The WNBA is evolving fast, and Caitlin Clark is driving that evolution with every possession. Whether you agree or not, you can't deny the numbers, the noise, or the impact. If you're into stories like this, bold analysis, hard questions, and real basketball breakdowns, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Her Hoops for daily deep dives into the game we love. And drop a close in the comments if you believe this is Caitlin Clark's league now and everyone else is just trying to keep up.